Hey friends, it's Mike. It's Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023, and this is going to be a channel update video, and I don't think it's going to take very long. I have a couple of topics to cover. The first is that yesterday, of course, was February 21st, 2023, and for those of you that follow my work and have read the memoirs of Billy Shears, you know that that date was spelled out in the book, and it's an important date for Billy. And the way he explains it is that it has to do with his contract with biological Paul. So we're talking about this esoteric, mystical, spiritual connection that Billy talks about. I have said, going back to about a year and a half ago, I did a video on this. I think it was titled, Does Paul McCartney Time Out on February 21st, 2023? And in that video, I said, I had no idea what was going to happen on that date. Was he going to pass away? Obviously he didn't, and I didn't think he would. I still kind of stick to 90 years of age because of the nines. 9 plus 0 equals 9. The other thought was, does he retire from the role? In other words, does he basically ride into the sunset? That's still a possibility. But going back a couple of months ago, I did a video which went into a lot more detail on February 21st, which was also Shrove Tuesday. And I'll put the link down to that video in the description box. And in that presentation, I think it was called Shrove Tuesday, Aleister Crowley, and the Eon of Horus. I think that's what I titled it. And I go into a lot more about the occulted or the esoteric possibilities with that date. So for those who have commented and for a couple of people that emailed me and asked, hey, Mike, what happened? Doesn't seem like anything happened. It's way too premature to judge that date based upon some public announcement. So I do believe it has something to do with a larger scheme, for lack of a better term, as it pertains to all of this occultism around Billy himself, the Beatles, and what's going on in the world. So to get that perspective, watch that video. Shrove Tuesday, Aleister Crowley, and the Eon of Horus. Sometimes I forget the titles of my videos. Okay, again, that'll be in the description box below. Now, a couple of things did happen, not yesterday, but it's the continuation of his ticker tape parade. And I've been saying this now since 2016, that as he gets closer and closer to the goal line, more and more accolades are going to come his way. So one of the articles I read yesterday is that he's going to be playing on a Rolling Stone song. So I guess the Stones have a new album coming out, or at least a new song coming out, and Billy's going to play bass on it. And one of the headlines of one of the articles said that the rivals, the Beatles and the Stones, are coming together. And of course, they were never rivals. They were two bands that were a construct of Tavistock, along with the entire British invasion and all the other genres of music that have followed after that. But what I will do is, let me just pause the video for a second, and I'm going to take you to two articles where Billy masterfully speaks, and they are great examples. So hold on one second. Let me pause the recording, and I'll be right back. Okay, so the first article comes to us from Yale University. It's Yale News, and the article is dated February 17th, but the actual event took place on the 16th. And the title of the article, Paul McCartney Takes Center Stage at Yale. In a lively conversation at Wolsey Hall on Thursday, the former Beatle recounted the people and experiences that have inspired his songbook. And he's talking about the lyrics 1956 to present. So if we page down, he makes some interesting comments. Sometimes, he said, songs emerge spontaneously, as when he first heard the melody to Yesterday in his sleep. After reconfirming it wasn't an old tune his father had taught him, he began drafting lyrics for what became a Beatles classic. And of course, Yesterday's an interesting song because in Memoirs it tells us that the way Paul McCartney, biological Paul McCartney, got the tune of Yesterday in his head was through hypnosis sessions with Jane Asher's parents, Richard and Margaret Asher. And the footnote says that Richard Asher had Paul McCartney in these hypnosis sessions, and Margaret Asher, who was a musician, in fact, she was one of George Martin's teachers, would play the piano. And so she would play the melody, and while biological Paul was in trance, he was taking it in. And then he was instructed that when he came out of trance, he would not remember the playing of the piano. He would just remember the melody to the music. Now, in my big presentation, Did the Beatles Write All Their Own Music? I took folks back to the old Neapolitan song and how both Hey Jude and Yesterday appeared to be a reworking of old Neapolitan music. Now, that's not to say that the footnote in Memoirs where Richard Asher had biological Paul in hypnosis and the Neapolitan possibility are not linked. So in other words, the melody that was being played on the piano by Margaret Asher could have been the old Neapolitan song, which sounds very similar to Yesterday. So this is a situation where it is the truth hidden in plain sight. I mean, it's encoded is what I'm saying. He's saying the melody came to him in his sleep. And with hypnosis, we will refer to trance as going into a deep sleep. You see what I'm saying? Now, what's really interesting, and probably a little more interesting than that, although that's interesting, is this quote from Billy. It is magical when that happens. And he's talking about Yesterday as an example. The more you think about it, the more magical it becomes. And then he adds, people say, do you believe in magic? And I say, well, I have to, with the word have emphasized. So it's encoded. It's masterfully speaking. So he's telling you that he believes in magic. Okay, so let me pause again and let's go to the next article. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so this comes to us from Showbiz Cheat Sheet, and I'll just read the first paragraph because the first paragraph actually contains the title of the article. Paul McCartney thinks it's interesting singing the Beatles' I Saw Her Standing There because it has a naivete that you cannot invent. The singer-songwriter recognizes that he was a completely different person when he wrote the song. A completely different person. And what he's saying is, it wasn't him. Okay, so another great example of masterfully speaking. So with that, let me pause the video once again, and I'm going to take you through some of the interviews that are upcoming and some of the presentations that will be uploaded to the channel. So hold on 1 second. Alrighty, so upcoming interviews and presentations. First, I want to thank everybody for all of the great feedback on the Jay Weidner interview. It was very well received. It has 11,000 views on Rumble alone. And I know it did very well on Jay's channel as well. It's chugging along here on my Paul is Dead channel as well as my main channel. But again, the feedback has been very, very good. And thank you so much for listening and for sharing the link. Part 1 of the interview that I did with Crow 777 is available on my Mixcloud and my Brighteon channels. I did put a link on my community tab on my Paul is Dead page. The reason why I have it up on Mixcloud and Brighteon is so that I can try to drive more traffic to those platforms. Part 2 with Crow is scheduled for March, early March, so I'm looking forward to that. I also have an early March interview with Mark Devlin, where I'm the guest, and we're going to have a spiritual discussion. It's not going to be about the Beatles or any of that. So that'll be a big break. I just finished recording a presentation which was a lot of fun with Vicky Lee, and Vicky does our Pepper Time videos. It's a video where, again, it's just to sit back, relax. It's a what if, food for thought type of presentation. It was great. I really enjoyed it. The conversation was terrific, and that should be up within 2 weeks or so. Tomorrow, February 23rd, which is Thursday, I'm interviewing the voice behind the Supernatural Beatles channel. It's a channel that I have been very impressed with. The uploads have been great, and this particular channel gets into a lot of the esoteric content within memoirs. I get into it too, but when I wrote this person, and I'm not going to say who it is until we get to tomorrow, I said that I was very happy that others were getting into explaining the esoteric, the occult, and the mysticism that is encoded in the book. Because I can't get to everything. It's physically impossible. In fact, I've got 3 emails from 3 different people who are really good in the occult, and they're long emails that they took the time to break down stuff, and it makes my head spin. I literally have to sit there and take it in bite-sized chunks to see how I can break this down and how I can possibly bring it into a presentation later on down the road. Let me see. I have an interview with my friend Amanda in a few days, and we're going to talk about the music industry. And I'm also working on an addendum to my big presentation, Did the Beatles Write All Their Own Music? And I'm factoring in and adding in some additional information that has come across my desk and I have worked on since April of 2020. So the presentation will be 3 years old this April 1st. So I'm working on it, taking my time, and I'm hoping to have it uploaded within 30 days. It's not going to be 4 hours long. I'm thinking maybe an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. But like I said, I'm going to be pulling in some information that came about, that I became aware of, that I believe is important to tack on and to bring into the overall big presentation from 3 years ago. Okay? And then I'm going to take a break, and I mean a break. I'm going to take several weeks or maybe a few months off to step away from all of this stuff, all of this Beatles stuff, and to enjoy my life with my family, which means my wife, our children, our grandchild. My wife and I have plans to start our garden this year. In fact, in the fall, we put the raised beds in, and so that we can grow our own food. So it's going to be busy, but fun to do those types of things. And honestly, folks, at this point right now, I have so much content out there on the Beatles and on Billy that it's getting to the point where I view it as perhaps diminishing returns. So I just don't want to talk about something for the sake of talking about it. And like I said, I don't do this for entertainment value. It's what I refer to as conspiratainment. I don't do it for that. So probably need to give it a little bit of a rest to see what starts to transpire. And of course, if something significant happens with Billy, then I will present on that. But if it's going to be kind of like a holding pattern, and it's just going to be ticker tape parade stuff, then there's no sense on reporting all of that. You guys can read that for yourself by just looking him up on the internet and taking a look at McCartney News, right? So it's that easy. All right, so with that, folks, that is this video. The comment section is open. You guys and gals have a great day. It's beautiful here in Raleigh. It's got to be about 75 degrees. It's really nice. I want to wrap this up and go outside, sit outside with my wife and with our 2 dogs. Okay, so everybody have a great day, and thanks for listening.